Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be taking a look through my collection of Pan record magazines. Now these pamphlets were available through Pan Direct. You had to sort of write into them and they would put you on your mailing list, and once you're on it you were sent this like little booklet here showing you all the latest Pan releases that were due in that sort of period over like a few months. They are pretty rare today. I've not got them all. In fact, I don't know anyone with a full set, but I think they are fascinating. I love them. And I think you're going to love them too. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so we'll start with Pan record number 6. This is the earliest one that I've got. Now, as far as I know, issues 1 to 5, obviously they were released, but we haven't even got pictures of them. So the great Pan website, ticket.net, and run by my friend Tim, he has got, I believe he's got all the ones that I have, plus a couple more at the end as well, sort of the later issues. But neither of us have got issues 1 to 5, and these don't exist in Pan's own archive, so they must be pretty scarce. I have a suspicion that the very earliest ones might be just almost like leaflets. They weren't even like little booklets. They possibly were just like 3 or 4 page leaflets, like the early sort of Penguin catalogues of that era. And these very much do look like copies of Penguin Progress, which was the Penguin promotional sort of catalogue. So these first here, number 6 and number 7, that typical sort of design from the very early 50s. And this is for January 1952. This one's dated, with books coming out to be published between January and April 1952. So the covers are sort of like card, but they're not quite as thick as a book cover. They are more like a pamphlet, and this is generally the format. So a little bit about a particular author or two, a look at some of the latest titles that were being published that they wanted to highlight and maybe give a bit of a better push to. Obviously 1952, there was a lot of Second World War memoirs being published. People had returned home and were telling their stories. Pan were no doubt on the lookout for any best-selling war titles that they could get their hands on. Then there's a little list there of the new titles for January 1952, I believe with a couple of reprints as well. And they give, like there, for example, number 96 is Fiesta by Ernest Hemingway. So that had been published before, so that was probably just getting a reprint. And then just sort of say earlier Pan books that are available with their numbers, saying they're still in print and available. Then it's sort of a little list here. It's just quite interesting. So they've got thrillers and westerns. So they've just sort of broken down the genre, and then they've got like detective novels there with a nice run of Agatha Christie's. Not that well illustrated with jackets or anything, but it is a list basically, and a little message on the back there. You know, most of you read this will have friends who'd be interested in Pan books. We would therefore suggest to them that they should send us their names and addresses for our mailing list, and then we would immediately send them a copy of the Pan record. And that included all over the world, from the West Indies to Australia, from South America to Malaya, from Scandinavia to South Africa, and men serving in the armed forces. That's pretty good, isn't it? So that was that's my very earliest one, and then they do sort of follow that pattern, that style for the next few issues. This is number 7, May to August 1952. As you can see, it's a very, very similar sort of format to what we've just looked at. They are very, very scarce, these, but these, I mean, the early ones hardly set the world on fire. But if you are a Pan fan, they're great. You know, I really do love them, and they do seem to be very, very hard to get hold of these days. Number 8 then is September to November 1952. Keeping the same sort of format, but obviously a few more books are being released. This is another year on now, and the list is growing all the time. Actually, I must dig it out. A friend of mine worked for Pan in the early 70s and then went on to work for Random House. And he knew I collected Pan books. And when I knew him, I was working in the book trade. And this is number 9. And when he first started with Pan, they gave him some photocopies of original Pan order forms from the early 1960s. And then all the books were listed there. And it would be like 1s and 2s of all the new titles. Then the new James Bond would be there. I believe the one he showed me was the Dr. No movie tie-in, and it was like 100 or 200 copies, and then back to 1s and 2s of the rest of the list. Absolutely amazing. They do say that, the Ian Flemings carried Pan for a long time, along with some of their best-selling war titles like Colditz Story and the Dam Busters. Here's number 10 from May 1953. Actually got a few titles on the back now at last. 4 new Pans. So if you ever do come across these, definitely pick them up. I mean, really. And as I said, if you got 1 to 5, and some of the ones past number 25, they seem to be the hardest to get. Number 11 here, September 1953. A few more books on the back there. So a friend of mine, Joe Pearson he's called, he's actually a publisher these days by trade. His label's called Design for Today. A very successful Instagram feed as well, with a lot of followers. A fantastic penguin collection, one of the best in the world for early penguin content. Well, back in 2008, Joe published a penguin catalogue, and I received this. And back in the day, it was like, as soon as you got the catalogue, you had to phone up and place your orders, basically. And Joe had a lot here, but I was really surprised because he actually had some non-penguin content in this particular catalogue, and it was right at the bottom here. And for some reason, I always thought that he had the run of the first 18. So I thought, oh, they must exist. Someone must have them. But look, it's actually there. I don't know if you can see this because it's quite small. Pan record numbers 6 to 18. 14 copies in total. Pan's equivalent to the Penguin's Progress. £50 the set. Now, at the time, I think I only had one odd issue back in 2008 when this catalogue came out. When I phoned Joe, he said it was one of the first things that went. So there you go. I didn't get them. I don't know who did buy them, but thankfully I have got all those now. But even so, it just shows how scarce they were. This one, number 12 here, January 1954. There is the Dam Busters. Went on to be a big seller for Pan. I believe it was their first million seller copy. There we are, a few more. There's the Colditz Story. I don't know if this is when it was published as a new title. New for January to April. Yeah, there we are. So the Colditz Story, one of my all-time favourites, number 273. And the follow-up as well, The Latter Days at Colditz, but that was written after Pat Reed had actually escaped. But he was working as like prisoner liaison, escape liaison in Switzerland, and he was sort of debriefing the escapees during the war. Fantastic stuff. May 1954 then, number 13. 4 more titles on the back. That lovely edition of The Return of Sherlock Holmes with the dancing men on the front. One of my favourite early jackets, that. And Escape or Die, another great escape story. This particular one, my copy of number 13, has actually got a few little X's in, and I guess these are the ones that they had in their collection, maybe. Or ones they thought, oh, I wouldn't mind picking some of them up. What I'd really dearly like to see with Pans is photographs of hundreds of Pans in the bookshop, similar to how you can get hundreds of Pans in a Penguin bookshop that exists from this sort of period. I don't seem to remember seeing lots of photos of Pans actually on display. You see the odd one now and again on a newsstand or something like that, but or in a shop window, but just not quite enough. Penguin, however, because they used to do book displays, and their books were perhaps a little bit more highbrow than Pan. They don't seem to be the photos of them, which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, that's the first 14 up to number 14. 15 here then, that's sort of the light blue. Now this is books published from January to April 1955, plus what was still available, earlier sort of editions. So there's not really been much change in the overall design. A few more pictures now. They're starting to do the odd movie tie-in as well, which is cool. The list is developing, and we actually got the sort of the Pan logo has changed more to the actual recognisable Pan logo rather than the earlier sort of early 50s design. This is mid-50s now, and number 16. I've actually got a couple of copies of this one. It's one that I've managed to get a double of. So I have got a couple of doubles of these, and because they're so rare, I am holding out, keeping these just in case someone comes along with something that they'd like to swap for them. Hopefully one of the numbers that I haven't got, I'd gladly do a 1-for-1 swap. Be nice if I could. Good stuff here. I'm trying to think what number Casino Royale would have been released in. Yeah, it's this one actually. It's this one here. So in the January 1955 issue, it does mention Ian Fleming. So it says Ian Fleming, whose elder brother Peter is the distinguished traveller, has produced 2 startling thrillers, of which the first, Casino Royale, is soon to be a Pan book. See page 11. Tough and exciting, yet intelligent and civilized, they introduce a Secret Service agent named James Bond, whose adventures will appeal to the rather more sophisticated readers than those who have enjoyed the tales of writers like Phillips Oppenheim. Mr. Fleming represented Reuters in London, Berlin and Moscow before the war, and was a special correspondent of the Times in Moscow in 1939. Throughout the war he served as a personal assistant to the Director of Naval Intelligence. He is now foreign manager of the Sunday Times. So there we are. So that's the first sort of mention in Pan of Casino Royale, and there it is in the list there, look, number 334. So, number 15, James Bond fans, maybe that's the one you want to track down. Shame I haven't got a double of that, eh? Number 17 then is September 1955. Lovely stuff, nice bright bold colours these, aren't they? Once again, similar sort of format to what we've seen. Vivian Leigh there, which with some holiday reading, which includes the Pan edition of Sir Harold Nicholson's Some People. You can just see the Pan logo poking out over the top there in Vivian Leigh's hands. 18 here, January 1956. Good stuff. This is number 19, which is, I've got another double of this one actually. First one in this format where they've gone for the Pan emblem in a scene, as it were, and they changed every colour going forward. So yeah, slight change in format here. This is nice, got a little order form there which you could cut out and send into Pan with all the books that were in print at that time, which is cool. You could send it direct to Pan themselves and they would supply direct. A lot of publishers still do that today. Cut out the bookshop middleman. What's this here? Did I read that right? Build your own pans. Build your own pans. Have you seen the new bind your own outfit for paperbacks which an enterprising new firm has put on sale? With one of these, you can build 6 Pan books in permanent stiff covers, complete with titles and authors' names, traced in your own handwriting in gold along the spines. And they give the prices. Please do not write to us for them. They must be obtained from a bookseller or a newsagent. Well, you see the old bound volume turn up, don't you? I've got some Penguins that are bound. I know on one of the James Bond book groups recently, there was a chat with a couple of bound James Bonds, which looked really nice. Pan record number 20 then. This is quite nice. This is a look at Pan's new headquarters. And look at that. It says that at present Pan books are selling at the rate of 8 million copies a year. Pretty impressive, eh? Usual sort of stuff. It's interesting there, in fact. So I just spotted there was a still from A Kid for Two Farthings. Now that still was almost like painted over and became the cover for the paperback of that book. It was one of those really like photorealistic ones, simply because it was taken from a photo. Number 21 then, is the Pan relaxing in front of a fire. Great thing to do when you're reading a book. There's a young Joan Collins there in Sea Wife. And look, this one here, so number my copy, look, the order form's been trimmed, look, you can see. So my copy of this one actually is missing its order form because someone's done it to order some groovy Pan books. Well, I don't blame them. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just order them and they'd be all brand new, mint? I think I'd have 10 copies of Casino Royale, please. 10 copies of Moonraker. Number 22 then, May 1957. Oh, they're going to town now. They've got 6 books on the back. Lovely cover, that Lieutenant Hornblower, one of my favourite Hornblower books. This one's also got a few little annotations inside, maybe where someone's was going to place an order, possibly. Pan is 10 years old. Oh, birthday issue with 10 candles. Their 10th birthday number. A couple more to go through here. Number 23 is the Pan there. He's relaxing, fishing. 3 books on the back, including Live and Let Die, which is cool. That had just been published. Obviously much bigger than the first 2 that Pan published. Don't know if this, I know Pan's Live and Let Die is on the back. I can't see anything else about Fleming per se, but you know, we do know the books were a huge success for Pan. Number 24 then, there he is, relaxing in bed. That's basically what I do each night when I go to sleep. Before I go to sleep, I have a good read, if I can, every day. A good time to unwind, isn't it? And then the last one I've got is number 25, and it's much thinner and flimsier, and it looks like they've gone biannual because this is 6 months later, so the whole format has changed. And I think these, you see, they're slightly smaller, and they just don't seem as committed perhaps to those earlier ones. It is a complete like sort of refresh. 16 pages in total, and it is, you know, there's not much in the way of articles. Look, 2 pages, and then it's straight into the list. So what happened there, I don't know, but something's obviously happened, you know, maybe an editorial change, or maybe the expense of publishing the Pan record. But I mean, 1958, Pan were well on their way to being a major publisher. So I'm surprised that they dropped that format. And as far as I know, they go up to about 30, number 30, 31. Don't think anyone's seen anything past that at the moment. But if you've got any of these, and if you've got any that I haven't got, do please drop me a line, and I will be very interested. As you know, I've got a couple there to swap. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that little look through my collection of Pan record magazines. If you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget I've got a whole host of Pan book related videos on my channel and a dedicated playlist as well. So do go and check that out if you've got time. Thank you very much for watching today, and I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.